Gaming over 40, no time to play. Memories and pixels, youth's dismay. Controllers dusty, life's array. Reality one, nostalgia sway. Gaming over 40, no time to play. Memories and pixels, youth's dismay. Controllers dusty, life's array. Reality one, nostalgia sway.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Gaming Over 40. I'm your host Andy Godoy and I'm back again with another one of these video/podcast things that I'm doing. So in today's episode then I'm going to be talking about and reviewing WonderBoy the arcade game. Now over there I've got my JAMMA arcade and I've been playing quite a lot of that game, to be honest with you. So anyway, before I go into sort of like the review and stuff like that, I want to go into the memories of what WonderBoy actually is to me. So WonderBoy, my first memory was sort of going to the arcades. Now, I didn't live near a seaside town. Now, this is my own British perspective of how I played arcades. So every so often, the local fun fair carnival used to come to our local park. And then what used to happen was like I'd go down there with a family member or some friends as I got older. And I think this was probably around 1984 or 5, something like that. And I ended up going there and I saw this game with this little blonde kid and it had really catchy music and straight away it drew me towards it. And I gave it a go and that game was WonderBoy. Was I good? No, because at the time, you know, I put like 10 pence in, 20 pence in, whatever it was. And I probably got to sort of like the second level, you know, like the islands and stuff like that. But I enjoyed what it was. But back then, the great thing about playing games in the arcades were that eventually you knew that these games were going to come out onto your home computers. Now, over here in the UK, we had like the ZX Spectrum, Amstrad, Commodore 64, and a bunch of other wonderful, amazing home computers. Now, the first one I had was the ZX Spectrum. Now, the model I had was this, it was the +2 version. So that had the built-in tape deck. And I remember buying magazines like Crash, Your Sinclair and Sinclair User. And then sometimes you'd get these adverts and they'll talk about like, you know, an upcoming game. And I remember seeing this game being advertised and I'm like, oh my God, WonderBoy. I can't wait to play it. I can't wait. So, you know, I saved up my pocket money and then I ended up going to my local shop at the time, which was like a Woolworths. They had the more modern release games. You could get sort of budget games in your local sort of corner shops and sort of news agents and things like that. Even like the local chemists used to sell video games like the Specky games on C64. I just remember them being on this little turnstile that would be all ZX Spectrum, turn it around, it would have all Amstrad, Commodore 64. But if I went down to my local Woolworths, which was in South London, Brixton, it would have like a huge selection. So you'd have all the little games and then the bigger new releases there. And I remember seeing WonderBoy and got it, picked it up. And I'd do what I normally do. I'd read the instructions on the way home. You know, I'd get the number, I think at the time it used to be the 45 bits, so 345 bus back to where I used to live. And then I'd get home, load the game up in 128K mode because it would load like the levels up like in one go, as opposed to 48K where you would get the game loading per level and it wouldn't have the music. But one of the things that didn't quite prepare me, I was aware of it, was the Specky version of the arcade game, like most 8-bit conversions at the time for the Specky, was completely in monochrome. Now, the first level was like this completely green, and it looks a bit of a mess, and it controls not quite as great as I remembered it to be. But as a kid, that was an amazing conversion for me. Obviously, eventually I played some of the Amstrad versions and the C64, and I preferred those versions over the Specky. I mean, I didn't mind the Specky version that much. The gameplay of the game, you know, as WonderBoy, as TomTom, you know, it was different. The sort of scrolling was jerky and whatever else. But anyway, years later, I ended up playing one of the versions that I played the most, and that was the Sega Master System version of WonderBoy. Now, I love this version. This version to me was better looking than any of the 8-bit versions, computer versions that I had played at the time. The character sprite looked cartoony, it was bright, it was colourful, had that catchy music. It was a fun game to get into, and I played that non-stop on my Sega Master System. I don't think I could get very far, but again, it was one of those games that was specifically built for the arcade, so it had like a toughness element into it. You know, later on in the WonderBoy series, which I'll talk about a little bit in this video, but more on some of the other episodes, how they changed from just being like a left to right platformer. Eventually they had RPG elements and whatever else. But anyway, that was the version I'd play for years until, like, fast forward years and years and years and years later, I ended up playing it on MAME. That's when I first discovered emulation and stuff like that. And I remember that was one of my first go-to games, and I played it a little bit. But the problem is with emulation and a bunch of other things like that is that you've got so many games you can pick and choose from that you end up playing one for 1 minute, then you end up playing another one, and then you want to try, and you're just constantly trying to live in the past and trying to recapture your childhood. And anyway, so eventually, years and years and years later, like pretty much recently, I ended up getting myself an arcade machine over there, which is a JAMMA arcade machine. I absolutely love it. And then again, similar to with emulations, I've got a Pandora. No, it's not a Pandora's box. Yeah, actually, I think it is a Pandora's box that's inside it. So I've got loads of games to choose from. And the problem I had originally was I'd be like, oh, I'll play this game, I'll play that game. Same thing again. But then I thought, why don't I just play one game that I really liked so I can get good at it? So I chose WonderBoy, you know, gave myself 1 credit, and I found myself thinking, oh, okay, I died. It's a tough game. I'll play it again. And I just found myself playing it and playing it and playing it and playing it again. Now, eventually, knocking my mic, eventually I ended up going to an arcade club, which I recommend that everyone goes. An arcade club, it's got loads of different arcade clubs. You got Leeds, you got Bury, you got Blackpool. My favourite one is the Bury one. And I remember sort of recently, RGDS, the podcast guys and friends of the show were there, and they were doing like a little gaming challenge. And I thought, I'll try this out. Now, I didn't beat the high score. Someone who's listened to this, who probably is an RGDS or like follows RGDS, please let me know what the highest score is, so that way I've got something to aim for as well. But it made the game even more interesting. And since I've come back from then, I really enjoy the game even more. It's fast become one of my favorite games. I mean, how to describe WonderBoy? I mean, I've talked about my experience, but it's a left to right platform around from 1984, 1985. It sort of predates, maybe it came out around the same time as Super Mario. And it kind of reminds me of Pac-Land a little bit, where both games are graphically stunning, you know, even to this day. But I think, if anything, it really holds up well today because of the bright and bold and colourful characters. Like the main character, Tom Tom, you've got to go on a mission, and I can't remember what the main baddie is. It's Dracon or something like that, and you've got to try and rescue your girlfriend, Tina. And you've got to go through like 3 stages of different little bits, and then you fight a boss, his head falls off, and then you sort of loop. It, not quite a loop, it becomes similar, but it becomes harder and different things. But there's so much more to this game as well. I mean, there's a skateboard, and if you get a skateboard, it sort of changes the way you control it. Now, I'm a big fan of that skateboard. I feel like once I've got that skateboard, I like it because I can jump further, and I feel that if I do make a mistake, I've got that one hit extra that if I get hit by an enemy, I can still carry on. WonderBoy only takes 1 hit and he's dead. So that's the problem. I think you get 3 lives, but you can get other lives as well if you get enough like high points and stuff like that, you know. I think if you collect enough fruit and vegetables in the first like screens and stuff like that, you end up getting like some letters, and then eventually you get like an extra life as well. There's ways of doing that. And I just love this game. It's got such a charm. It's got such catchy music. I can probably get like now about 10 levels or 8 levels in. I can possibly get, I I think I'm under 2 million or whatever in my score. I'll post it up at some point in the video. You can see my high score. And if you guys can try and beat it, please comment on the video down below and let me know like what your scores are. And I recommend this game to everyone. It's such a fun, easy game to get into. It's just pick up and play. And that is perfect for me. You know, with the way my life is, you know, my life is like I'm busy with work, I'm busy with family, I'm busy just doing a bunch of other things. So if I've got 10 minutes and I want to play a game, it's one of those perfect games to pick up and play. Will I ever finish it? I don't know because I'm not that skillful, but I'm hoping to sort of end up beating my high score, which I've got over there in a little scrap of paper that I wrote down all my favorite games, and I wrote myself a high score. And the more I play it, the further I'm getting into the game. Now, WonderBoy obviously did spawn numerous and hundreds of different sequels. You know, you've got like WonderBoy and Monsterland. I think on the 8-bit computer versions that was known as Super WonderBoy. Then you've got the arcade game WonderBoy 3. Then you've got the Sega Master System version WonderBoy 3, the Dragon's Trap. Then it goes into the sort of like the Monster World type of games, but over sort of like I think it was a PC Engine or NES actually. I think you've got the Adventure Island games where I think it was something to do with Hudson and Western did the Sega games, and yeah, I think that the other company did the Nintendo games. So it went off in a different direction. Now, I never really liked the NES game Adventure Island, but maybe it's because I haven't got a lot of nostalgia for it, and maybe I should give that a go at some point and just see what it feels like. You know what? I think I will do that. I want to add that to my to-do list, actually. I definitely will add that to my to-do list because the reason why I enjoy WonderBoy is partly nostalgia, rose-tinted glasses, but also recently playing it. It suits my playing needs. It's a fun game, great graphics, fun music, and it's always got that you can get a little bit further if you keep on playing sort of thing. So out of 5 then, actually, you know what? I'm not going to grade these games out of 5. I think for these reviews, I'm going to do sort of like an A, B, C, D sort of rating. I'm going to give this game a C+ because it was bettered by other arcade games there. Is it the best WonderBoy game? In my opinion, no. There's loads of other WonderBoy games out there. There's also a remake as well, which I might want to try out. But yeah, that is today's episode. WonderBoy, the arcade. It's one of those games that I just have to keep on playing. And yeah, guys, please feel free to comment on your high score. I will show the high score thing again on, you know, on this video. And if you got a really amazing score, that will give me something to aim for and beat, really. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, listening. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I have been Andy Godoy. I'll be back with another episode of Gaming Over 40 next week. And the song you're going to hear now, this time it was all done by AI. Lyrics as well, music and vocals. And it's called WonderBoy, Tom's Crest. Good on you, AI.
In a
Goodbye.
pixelated jungle with a skateboard and a grin, Tom's on a quest where the adventure begins. Jumping over boulders, dodging fire and flames. WonderBoy will save the day in these arcade games. Dinosaurs and dragons try to knock him down. He collects his hearts in every little town. From ancient ruins to a pirate ship, alright. Tom's got the courage, he's ready for the fight. Dinosaurs and dragons try to knock him down. He collects his hearts in every little town. From ancient ruins to a pirate ship, alright. Tom's got the courage, he's ready for the fight. WonderBoy in a land so far from here. With a hammer and a shout, he'll conquer all his fears. WonderBoy where the legends come alive. In that arcade glow, he's fighting to survive. Clicking in the slot machine, adrenaline is pumping on that bright screen. A skateboard going fast through the jungle's maze. Tom won't back down from those pixelated days. Fruits and veggies keep on strong as he goes. Island hopping like a hero that everybody to survive.